You wrote this article, the 21 SEO experiments, and I have read all 21 SEO experiments on this podcast.
No way.
All 21 of them. I've given a separate episode to each experiment covered in your 21 SEO experiments article. It's seosherpa.com/SEO-experiments. I remember the URL, simple URL, but also I've read it so many times. And when I first read that, it changed my understanding of SEO. I think you wrote it a long time ago. You've been in the space for a long time. And so I messaged you on LinkedIn and I said, hey, come on the show. And you're like, let's do an episode about how to grow an agency. And I'm like, that's a great idea. You have an SEO agency. It's a successful SEO agency. You're well known and respected in the space. I thought that sounded really cool. So for anyone who's listening, if you have an agency or you're a consultant or a contractor or you're doing SEO work for other people or any other types of service work for other people and you want to learn how to grow, this is going to be a fun episode. We're also going to talk SEO because seriously, the SEO experiments article that you wrote, so good. And the first experiment was Rand Fishkin sharing him posting on Twitter. Everyone clicked on my result. I want to see what happens. And then like 3 hours later, he's ranking number 1 from all the clicks.
Yeah.
And then the last one too, which I shared on the podcast recently, was the shared hosting experiment. Do you remember that one? Because you wrote this a long time ago.
The CCHAR experiment I remember very well because it was timely and there was a lot of misconception around it at that particular point, which for context for our listeners was 2016. So that post has stood the test of the time. I think a lot of what's in there is still relevant today. But the shared hosting one, I don't. If you can jog my memory and remind me who ran that and what the outcomes were.
Yeah, so I want to say,
great.
I want to say, I don't think any of it was outdated because before I read each one on the show, before I shared each one on the show, I don't think I did all 21 of them. Maybe it was like 18. Maybe there were like 3 that I decided not to do. But most of them were completely up to date, especially Rand's experiments with clicks.
Yeah.
That one is still extremely relevant. You want your site to get clicks in the search results. That's going to make your results perform better. You want your pages to get clicks.
Yeah.
The shared hosting experiment was, I believe, okay, so 2 sites with pretty much identical content, both.
Yeah.
And they're targeting the same keywords. And one has a dedicated IP and the other is on shared hosting. And the SERP, the search engine results page, is crazy because the one with the dedicated IP takes up 9 out of 10 spots on the search engine results page.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is this concept of, you can essentially be, classified or labeled in a bad neighborhood. So if you are going to adopt shared hosting, it's a good idea to see who you're sharing with. That would be a good step to take. But ultimately, if you can create your own real estate and make sure that everything that is sitting underneath your website is nice and clean, then that's definitely going to give you, performance benefits, of course, as well for load times and those sorts of things. But also make sure that you're not classified amongst some other, let's say, less above board or quality websites that you wouldn't want to be labeled alongside.
Did you write that article entirely yourself, or like it's such a thorough, in-depth article? I don't know if you even remember. Yeah, you said 2016 because I remember sitting on my couch and reading that into the middle of the night, just like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah, I wrote that one myself. I think it was an article that gave me a lot of traction at the time, and it was really great for networking in the community. I had contributions from the likes of Eric Enger, who was a very notable name at the time, also doing a lot with IMEC Labs and running experiments himself. I then also sort of ran it past Rand before I shared it because a number of the experiments that I featured were from him. And they really got behind it and gave it a good push. So it was great for link acquisition. It was great for, let's say, relationship building and networking. And I wrote it all myself. It was off the back of sort of, I think at the time, I was relatively still young in the space at that stage. I'd read up on a lot of sort of Brian Dean's content and creating these great sort of skyscraper long form assets. And I put my heart and soul into that post and managed to find a huge amount of really, let's say, uncovered experiments. People that had done some great work, really pushing the boundaries in the industry, and it hadn't really been given the exposure that it deserved. And I, really just scoured the internet and spoke to a lot of people and tried to, give those experiments the light of day and make sure that, SEOs could really see the result of great work that was being done and apply it to their day-to-day execution and real life SEO work, really.
It was super informative. And even for me, who was just head deep in the space, there were so many things in that post that I didn't know in 2016 when I saw it. And actually, I checked before the show, so it has 213 backlinks from 109 websites. So 109 different domains linked to it. Very solid performing. And yeah, the skyscraper technique was popping off at that time, and that is a skyscraper article. It is a long article. Actually, I'm very curious. I didn't plan to ask this, but this is a very interesting thing because I talk on this show a lot about linkable assets. These are creating things that are so cool, useful, or interesting, people have to share them. And your SEO Experiments article, 21 SEO Experiments, that is 100% a linkable asset. You didn't make that. You didn't spend I don't think you spent all that time on this post just so you could rank for SEO Experiments. I mean, yeah, you're ranking for SEO Experiments, but I think you did it because it's going to bring you backlinks, it's going to bring you awareness, it's going to bring you clout, it's going to get you clients, it's going to get you networking, all speaking opportunities, all these things, which it did. And so you made it for that. You made this amazing post. I'm actually curious, did you have a go-to-market planned for the post before you put the work into it, or did you put the work into it and then you're like, oh crap, how do I actually get people to find out about this?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I did plan to do like a pre-launch on it, and ultimately that's what I did. Those people that were featured, I let them know ahead of time that they were featured in the post. I gave them the opportunity to give feedback, add extra context, maybe contribute a little bit, as a bunch of them did. So that built awareness. And then as soon as the post was ready to publish, I was then able to go back to those people and say, hey, the post is now live. If you feel that it's worth sharing, then please do. And a number of those, quite notable SEOs really got behind it. Rand being the main one. I mean, he really was, the man in the SEO community at that particular time. And he pushed it out across all of his channels. They made it the number one post on Moz. Moz used to do a roundup. I can't recall what it was called now, but they had like a top 10 list each week, and they made it their number one post, pushed it out to their 500K plus email list. It brought a lot of exposure. So I didn't actually have to do any really like conventional outreach for it that you might typically do for, a pillar piece of content like that. The distribution basically took care of itself once I'd included those people that actually were, the promoters, the distributors that I could rely on, basically.
It makes sense. You're targeting SEOs. SEOs know the importance of a backlink, and you're like, hey, can I have a quote for this article I'm writing? I'm going to give you a link. They're like, yep. And then you actually made something great. So then when they see it, when they see what they're in, they're like, oh, this is actually good. Yeah, I'll definitely share this because I'm proud of this. I'm proud to be in this. This method of marketing is so effective, I had to make sure it wasn't against Google's rules before I kept doing it. It's a form of SEO I call compact keywords. Whereas most SEO focuses on putting up articles to answer questions how, what, when, compact keywords focuses on putting up dozens of pages that sell to searchers who are actually looking to buy. These pages rank on Google and convert so much better than normal that when I discovered this years ago, I couldn't believe this was allowed. It's less work too. The average compact keywords page is only 415 words. Compact Keywords is a 13-hour deep course on getting sales with SEO. A customer recently said, each lesson is dense with information. You're giving years worth of experience boiled down into 15 to 30-minute lessons with no filler or fluff. I feel like I'm gaining a new superpower. Compact Keywords is about setting up an SEO funnel that brings you sales for years and years and years. It works with AI, it's less work than traditional SEO, and it makes way more money. You can get it now at compactkeywords.com. Back to the podcast.
Yep.
Yeah, and you use a lot of Dan Petrovic as well, who when the
Yes.
Google API leak came out last year, Dan Petrovic knew about it. No one knows this. He knew about it before anybody. And he
Yep.
even messaged Google. He's like, "You guys should put this back in the box." They're like, "No, it's fine." And then they realized too late that it wasn't fine, and the Google API leak happened. But yeah, you had a lot of experiments by Dan Petrovic.
Yeah, he ran some really great stuff. I mean, he was on the bleeding edge at the time. He was doing some pretty risque stuff, which I really appreciate because it's only when SEOs push the boundaries that we really understand and learn what's actually happening within our space. And Dan was definitely one who really pushed the envelope, at that time. Yeah, so he was a great supporter. I think I probably included 3, maybe 4 of his experiments as well. Yeah, there was some good contributors there.
That was amazing. Okay, so I want to ask you this now for let's say this is now for people who maybe they're starting their SEO journey and they're also they're like, okay, I'm learning SEO. I find it really fascinating, and while I learn it, I want to start making money with it. And the easiest way to do that is to just get some clients.
Yeah.
So my first question to you is, if you had to start from scratch today with $0 and no clients, what would your first 90 days look like?
Well, it wouldn't look too dissimilar to what I did now nearly 15 years ago, which is when I first started off in the consultancy space. Service set might be different, but conceptually I would do a lot of the same things. Your biggest opportunity, first of all, to capture clients is always going to be relationships that you already have. People that know, like, and trust you. Doesn't matter if they're not in the same industry vertical, you could know them for something entirely different. If you've got a strong relationship with that person or business and they trust you for what you do, you can go to them and say, "Hey, look, got this new venture. I would love to have you as a client." Now that client relationship to begin with may not even be a paid relationship. You can do some comp work for them, build up a case study, build up a bit of a portfolio, and then you can go from there. You do need to have proof if you really want to start to, capture more clients and scale. I would also strongly suggest that it's probably a good idea to begin with a little bit of breadth. So niching down and specialization is a really good thing to do, because when you can be known for one particular area or vertical or skill or service, it makes you much more referable. But often when you're starting out, cash flow is king, right? So you need to be able to generate some sales and generate new business. So when I began, I started off by selling websites. I did SEO services. I did a bunch of stuff in and around the kind of the website optimization space. And then over time, as I started to build up a portfolio of clients, some nice residual revenue coming in month by month, I was then able to specialize and go a little bit more niche. So those would be a couple of things. I would also generally recommend, and this is good advice for really anyone who is a practitioner in particular, is think about actually just adopting a middleman model. So what I did when I first began was I did the marketing, I did the sales, but I didn't do the implementation. I worked with a trusted SEO partner who actually did all of the execution work. Basically found clients, charged them a retainer, and then paid someone else to execute the work. And because of that, I could scale so much more quickly than if I was also trying to work out how to do the execution work myself as well. Why do that as opposed to hire freelancers? Well, one, if you work with a partner or a sort of wholesale agency, they've already got the systems and processes. They can scale much more effectively. It gives you one point of contact instead of having to deal with multiple different people for different aspects of aspects of the service, and they'll typically have redundancy built in so that, if someone's off sick, then there's other people to pick up the work. So it basically is your sort of outsourced engine, so to speak. And that's what I did when I got started. I was so successful in that model that about 3 years into my journey, I became the number one customer for that wholesale agency. And as a result of that, the owner then had obviously a high level of risk in his business where I was pretty much buying all the supply from him. So when he wanted to sell the business, he came straight to me. And I ended up buying my supplier and then vertically integrating that business. And that was in 2017. And as a result of that, I onboarded like 20 people into my company and had a ready-made business that I just flew with.
That was after the 21 SEO Experiments article.
That was shortly after the 21 SEO Experiments. In fact, funnily enough, if I think back now to that time, putting all of the time frame together, I think I actually featured that post in a talk in Sydney, Australia, that announced the purchase of that business from my mentor, who's Australian based. And then a month later, we integrated the team. And then went on from there. So that funnily enough all happened around the same sort of time. Funny.
How did you meet him?
I met him. His name's James Schramko. He's now
also sorry to interrupt. That's my first question. And then for people who want to do this, what did your payment model look like? Like, how are you getting compensated?
Yeah. So the compensation model was essentially just as a middleman model. So he sold SEO services, a wholesale rate, and he would deal with consultants and agencies. He didn't want to do the retail model where he was going out and doing client management and that sort of thing. He basically just wanted to do the supply and then have agencies and consultants basically be his front end and resell his services. So literally what I would do is go out and find a client. I would charge them a retainer fee, which would be about 3 times the fee that I was paying James for his services. And I would just take the markup in the middle. So basically get a client, get the cash, then spend part of that cash on then the execution of the services, and then he would do the delivery. Meanwhile, what I would do is basically find the clients, do the sales, and then do the account management. So the client relationship. So as far as the client's concerned, my team is doing the SEO, but actually my team is really an outsourced wholesale supply source. So, and then there's plenty of those around now. I mean, there's the one that comes to mind is it the Hoth? I think they're a big wholesale agency. You've got then like specialists within, link building as well. What's the one that comes to mind? Off the top of my head now, I forget. But yeah, there's a bunch of them out there if you want these kind of wholesale supply sources.
And how did you meet your mentor?
So I met James, another James, very early in my digital marketing journey, whilst I was still employed. And he was speaking at an event in Dubai that I was invited to. And at the time, he was teaching online marketing, affiliate marketing, traffic arbitrage, that sort of thing. On one side of the business, he had this sort of like community and mentorship that he was sort of teaching these digital marketing sort of concepts. And then on the other side of his business, he then had this wholesale supply source for web development and SEO services. So when I first met James, I was still employed. I was then, in the nicest possible way to say this, kind of pushed out of that business in a bit of like a hostile takeover, and was left sort of without work. And I then had these aspirations to become an affiliate marketer. I wanted to sort of work from my laptop, sit on the beach, drink cocktails, travel the world, that sort of thing. And I tried that for a month or two and realized it was very difficult. So I went to James and said, look, I'm trying to make this affiliate marketing thing work. It's taking time to gain traction. What do you recommend? And he was the one that recommended that business model to me. He said, I've got a supply source. You go out and win customers and you just take the profits as the middleman. And that's what I ended up doing. And, as I said, I grew very, very quickly after that, sort of capturing clients and scaled up from there.
Actually, I think something that people might want to know is like, what advice do you have for people who want mentors? I have a lot of people ask me, will I mentor them? I'm sure you still get that. And if you're experienced in any space, you totally get that. But if you're in the position where you want mentors, how do you go and get them?
The first thing I would say is you definitely want to think about it in the plural sense and look for mentors in each area of your life and business where you have identified that you need to improve and grow. So, I have had and do have mentors in the spaces of like sort of physical health and nutrition, relationships, general business mentorship. And then, certainly multiple times through my business evolution, I've gone out and found mentors to master something that I was not good at. So I went out and found a mentor when I wanted to scale, like Facebook advertising for the agency, for example. I went out and found a mentor who I could learn from when I really wanted to enhance and improve our sales process, for example. So it's important to seek out specialists in areas that you need to improve and grow. And then ultimately, I think it's always best just to pay for mentorship. It's very, very difficult to find someone who is at a level that would just be willing for you to give them some form of time in exchange for, let's say, coaching. It's very, very rare because the best at what they do, honestly, they don't need help and resources. But if you're willing to sort of pay your way into the game and invest as a student, and most of these do have programs, that's the best way to get access, to these people.
I would also add that just by just pinging them and showing them something you're doing that you think maybe they'll think is cool, they'll give you an, okay, that's cool. And then like a month later, you have like an update. Oh, sweet. That's great. Yeah. Continue to update me. And then like a month later, you have another update. Oh my God, but maybe you should change this. And then that person that you want to become your mentor, after a few months of updates, they're just giving you advice for free because they see you going after it. And I mean, like, I love surrounding myself with energy like that, with people who are just excited, who are pursuing it. And it's like, oh, I see this obvious flaw, but you're excited. Here's like a one sentence piece of advice that will just like save you a lot of headache. And I'm totally open to giving that to you because your energy is helping me.
Yep. Yeah, that's solid advice. I mean, the best thing not to do is just DM someone through LinkedIn or email and just say like, I'm in this situation.
Can I pick your brain?
Yeah, exactly. Can I pick your brain, or can you offer me some advice? Like, just makes it very sort of difficult to actually, as someone who could help, actually offer anything contextual and valuable. So I think if you can, you can make it very, very easy on the person that you want to seek advice from. That is a very good first step. And once you've built a relationship, absolutely it can snowball and develop if you show willing and motivation.
I remember this is like it's like, yeah, I think you said it. It's like you might offer free help, but they don't need free help. Like they can afford it. And one of the people who I've learned a lot in terms of marketing from is Ryan Holiday. And I read Trust Me, I'm Lying. That was one of the earlier marketing books that I read. And I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. I can get so many backlinks with this method. This is insane. It's have you read Trust Me, I'm Lying?
That's the short book that he wrote, I think. He's quite a short, by Ryan Holiday standards.
He wrote like a growth marketing handbook, which was pretty short. But
I've
Trust
read
Me, I'm
so
Lying
much
was a
of his
bit longer.
stuff,
Yeah.
But mostly on stoicism. I love his work
Oh,
on
yeah.
all of like stoic philosophy. I've consumed
Ego is
a
the
huge
enemy.
amount of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obstacle is the way. All of those are great.
So before he was into stoicism, he literally was gaming the media. He was manipulating the media. And so like the subheading, I think, for Trust Me, I'm Lying was Confessions of a Media Manipulator. I think that was the subheading for it.
It's a
And
great title.
he popularized Help a Reporter Out, I believe, like especially within the SEO community, he popularized Help a Reporter Out. He's like,
Interesting.
there are these journalists who need sources for their articles, and you can just tell them stuff and say you're a source and they'll believe it. And here's 10 examples of how I have done it and how I have lied to the media. So he wrote this book, which is a crazy book, and it changed a lot of people's lives in just all over marketing and digital marketing. Trust me, I'm lying. But this was early in my career, and I was doing SEO for these like what's the word? These like they were for, it was this power couple from Vietnam. They were like titans in Vietnam. And they paid Ryan Holiday so I was helping them with SEO, and they were telling me the story. They paid Ryan Holiday and for an hour call. And I'm like, how much did you pay him? And I was still like early on in my career. And I'm like, how much did you pay him? And they're like, oh yeah, he charged $10,000 for that hour long call. And I'm just like, oh man, you can go so far in this industry. Like that's crazy. But anyway, yeah. So to the point, it's like someone like Ryan Holiday. If you want him to be your mentor, he has enough like free. He can just pay people to help him. He doesn't need free help, free untrained help. To your
Yeah,
point.
I mean, it's actually a cost to those people to spend the
It's a
time to
total
actually
cost.
respond. Yeah,
It's a
Yeah.
total cost. Yeah. What are some? Actually, no. I also want to know. So you're in Dubai right now.
That's right.
Said that. Yeah. So when you were actually getting clients before you were doing the implementation, were you doing that in Dubai?
Yes. Yeah. The business was started in Dubai and has sort of blossomed from there. But yeah, Dubai born and bred, agency was launched. I mean, really like first iteration, like 2010 SEO Sherpa, which is, the agency that I have now is now dating back to 2012. So yeah, it's going back a little while now.
How are you getting, I mean, you said you started with people that you knew, relationships that you had.
Yeah.
But I mean, were you going, I'm curious because like I know what I did. I went to tech and business events in New York City every night.
Yeah.
And I learned very, I wouldn't even say quickly because I was a slow learner with this. I tried bouncing around night after night, just saying, hi, do SEO, hi, do SEO, hi, do SEO, not even getting to know people. And that didn't work. And it was a lot of pain. And then I started creating actual relationships with people and real friendships with people, listening to people and not selling myself and only talking about myself when people asked about me. And then that's actually what helped me get clients.
Yeah.
But so when you were in Dubai, were you going to a lot of networking events to meet people, or like I mean, especially before you were a name, how were you doing it?
Yeah, I did a lot of that also. I was a member of BNI. I'm sure many of the listeners would have heard of that. I think it's a pretty international organization. And that too was very, very successful. I mean, really for the same reasons that going back to my existing network was also successful, because it's the type of environment where you can build high levels of trust and become known, for a particular discipline. So therefore you can become more referable. So those things I did a lot of. I did then off the back of that, whatever sort of speaking opportunity I could get, like however small to whatever group it would be. So I remember speaking to, the Scandinavian Business Organization, the British Business Organization. I really did the rounds early days to sort of try and build up.
Were you pitching people to being like, hey, I do SEO, I'd love to speak at your event? Or like, how are you doing that?
Yeah, I did some outbound. Yeah, for sure. I understood like who was putting on events and typically whether those events had some form of guest speaker. And then I put together a very simple, like 1-page, like speaker, like promo leaflet, which would cover like the topics that I would speak on. It would link to some recordings of some presentations that I'd done before, and I pushed that out. I would always ask for referral after I'd done one speaking event, like who else do you know that has other opportunities similar to this that you could refer me to? And it snowballed from there.
How are you finding the events?
It's a good question. I think probably things like Eventbrite or whatever the equivalent was, of that time. I'd also just find out about them because, a lot of people that might be, let's say, part of a BNI group would also be part of another organization that's also business focused, right? So I'd find out from them, well, like, what else do you go to that is sort of business networking orientated? And I kind of find out about a lot of stuff through the grapevine that way.
You know what? You know why I love that? Because so I don't know about you. I get so many, especially now that like my followers have grown on social media, but even with this podcast, I just get so many people DMing me, pitching me their services. And there are people, and all they do is they spend their time just DMing people, hoping they'll say yes. And the percentage of people who are going to say yes, very, 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 very slim. And it hurts your algorithms, it hurts your social media. It makes it so your content might be seen as spammy and might actually like underperform. And instead, you could do what you just did, which is, or what you said you did, which is find events that are happening in your area, that are in your niche, put together basically a press kit, and then instead of pitching these people who most likely are going to say no to what you are selling and hurting your algorithm, pitch yourself to people who are a lot more interested in having you and having an expert as a speaker, and then in a relevant event, and then actually getting clients from that, because you are literally, if you're standing on a stage and you are talking, you are being framed as the expert in this thing, and people are going to come up to you afterwards, and people are going to contact you, and that's just how it works. You are being framed as the expert.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
It's like crazy social proof.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's also so much more follow through that you get from speaking at these events too, right? So once you've been on stage and you've got photographs for it, or you've got some video clips, those things have great traction across social media and position you as an expert there. It's as much about what you do after the event sometimes, as much as it is about the event and the opportunity that's in the room, I think. But yeah, so I think whatever level that you can start at, you definitely have knowledge and expertise that many people could learn from. However new or novice you think you are right now in this space, you are going to know a lot more than the general public, and therefore you can teach and you can demonstrate your expertise, and you can be positioned as a expert or a thought leader comparative to those people, and generate a lot of business as a result of it.
That's such a good point, which is like, you might feel imposter syndrome, but you still most likely know a lot more about the subject matter than the people who are in the audience.
100%.
Also, I like what you said. So yeah, you share it on LinkedIn after you share it on Instagram. It's like, look, I spoke at this thing one time, and you might, like, maybe someone's listening, well, what if nobody shows up? One time we were premiering a product, and we were on stage, and the main stage had like a ton of people, and we were off on the side stage that had, I think, like 2 people in the audience. Funny enough, one of the people ended up investing in our company, but like the 2 people didn't. Yeah, it was crazy. But still, like 2 people in an audience meant for like 50 people looked really, 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 really bad. And so we like used this in our company press so much, but we never showed the audience. We only showed the stage. And you couldn't tell that, like, and it's funny because the presentation was great, and you would watch it and you would never be able to tell that there was nobody in the audience. And actually now with AI, you could probably just paint it and make something really convincing. But what you do afterwards is so important. The speaking thing, was great.
Yeah, that's all good marketing. I remember some instances when I first started sort of speaking on stage, and I would be, part of these sort of multi-speaker events. And my, press kit then would always mention who I'd shared the stage with. Even if I didn't directly share the stage with them, they might happen to have been on a slot like 3 slots before or the previous day or something. I would really leverage that. It's all about positioning and framing, right? And that's what's going to give your potential, customers the confidence to invest in you. So that's a good thing.
I went on stage one time directly after Gary Gensler, who became, I think he was head of the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission. And I went on literally directly after him. And he's not really a popular figure in business at all, but he's a very reputable figure. He's a big name. And so I would use that and everything. Yeah, shared a stage with Gary Gensler. And I would say that to everybody. It's like you said, all about positioning. And so what was it like actually? What was it like in Dubai doing this? Like, were the people? This was in 2010. You're going to business events in Dubai. The city is developing. I'm just very, because Dubai 15 years ago, I mean, and going to business events, that must have been a trip. That must have been crazy.
Yeah, Dubai, as you might expect, for a new city, has changed rapidly over that time frame. And if I rewind the clock to like the 2010 period, it really was a Wild West at that stage. In our industry space, it was many steps behind the developed markets like the UK and the US. So stuff that I was sort of able to do here in this market might seem as being sort of like relatively advanced, but maybe by sort of US, UK, European standards, probably wasn't. And also it was at that time not really a digitized market. I mean, yes, people had websites, but like a lot of companies didn't, even in like 2010. Like, it was crazy. So a lot of what we were talking about conceptually when it spoke to SEO was totally new to people. Like, it was really a market that we needed to educate a lot in, like really not just explain what SEO was, but also, what value it had. So yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, it's very, very different now. I mean, as you might expect, it's one of the most sort of advanced markets in the world, and it's doing some really, really crazy and innovative things. But that wasn't Dubai in 2010. It was, almost a sort of a first world sort of infrastructure with a bit of a third world mentality at that particular time. It was a really interesting place to be a part of.
Would you say it was easy? You're like SEO and they're like, oh, I've heard about that, I need that. Or would you say it was you had to actually educate people?
Yeah, I think it depends. It depends how you look at it. I mean, now you would say there's a lot more competition. So, that of course brings its challenges. There wasn't so much competition, at that time, but there also wasn't so much demand. People were not actively looking for SEO services in the way that they would be today. So we had to do a lot more of this kind of educational stuff, which is why I would, focus a lot on going to these events and speaking. I would produce video content every single, week, doing these kind of industry updates. I would be really active with my email list. I mean, there was a real, sort of nurturing process that took place, a huge amount of content marketing that was done really just to, educate our potential, clients into what we did and how it might affect them, really.
What were some mistakes that you made that caused you to lose clients early on? Some mistakes where you're like, okay, I need to learn from this. Okay, I'm going to internalize this. I'm not going to make this. That one hurt.
What would be some big ones? First one that would come to mind would be expectation management and also like contract length. I really wore it as a badge of honor in the early days that I was like, there's all these other agencies trying to lock you into like long-term plans, 6, 12-month contracts. We don't do any of that. You can come on board with us as long as you commit to, 3 months, we'll work with you. I mean, great as a sales hook, really bad in terms of client retention because the expectations you set are completely wrong. People think that they're going to get the outcome that they want within 3 months, and also attracts the wrong sort of client. And as a result of that, of course, churn was really high, which is really expensive when you have to replace a client after 3 months with another client. It's both expensive on time and also expensive on cash in terms of marketing and opportunity. And that would definitely be one. Secondly, I would say also payment terms. We lost a lot of clients through that. We would, in the early days, sort of invoice monthly. That has two problems. One is, you're basically ensuring that there's a really tiny look back window. So every single month they have to, actually make a decision to pay. And if they haven't seen enough work or seen enough results in that month, they can choose not to. And it forces a decision in and of itself, right? So, as soon as we then switch to, sort of subscription credit card billing or incentivizing longer term payment plans, like, pay for 3 or 6 months or even a year at a time and get incentives, that made a huge difference. But I would say the biggest thing, and it's still the case today, is really managing that onboarding period, is starting as strong as you can. And that's not necessarily in terms of results, because we all know that with SEO, results take time. But it's really ensuring that you over-index on things like communication and speed of execution and like frequency of updates, frequency of deliverables. So almost overwhelming them with like the pace and the volume at which you execute, that they can then enter into that relationship early on and go, right, okay, I'm in safe hands here. I'll give these guys a little bit of a free rein to get on and do their work. The very worst thing that you can do, when you onboard a client, is go silent. Even for 1 or 2 days, you really need to make sure that you're, demonstrating that you're working on stuff, you're moving the project forward. And if you can get off to a really good start where you build confidence with the client, that will buy you a huge amount of time then to actually generate results, which is ultimately what the clients come for and what they'll stick around for.
So not long after I read your SEO Experiments article, I started doing SEO at Dentsu Aegis. And I was at iProspect under Dentsu Aegis, and I was doing SEO for clients like Procter and Gamble and for Luxottica, just some of the biggest companies in the world. And it was non-stop communication about everything. I learned so much about how to manage clients and how to show that you're serious to clients. And it's not just, your keyword moved up this amount or down this amount. This is the news in the industry today. And then the next day, this is the new news in the industry today. And even if there's no news, you're still figuring out how to spin up news so that it's like, okay, this guy is on top of it. This company is on top of it. Anything that is changing, they are managing it all. I don't even have to think because they're so on top of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of people watch my show just to learn what's going on in the industry so they can tell their clients, hey, this is what's going on. This is what we're looking at. Like, these are the changes that are happening. And it's constant communication. And I mean, you're totally right. I mean, think about if you're paying somebody for a service and then you start paying them and then you don't hear from them. Mm-hmm. That's the worst thing. That's the worst thing in the world. You want to know that your money is being put to good use.
Yeah, I mean, all of us that have an agency are in a client servicing business that also happen to do a service on the back end. Like, that is the number one thing that you have to take care of, is the client service first. Because, if they like feel that you've not got everything lined up and you're on top of things, then they're going to drop you like a stone. And I've seen, great account managers, carry underperforming accounts for a long time until we've been able to get results. Whereas if those relationships hadn't have been built, the client would have looked at the numbers and then they cancelled the contract, So it's a huge skill, and one of the most important, let's say, functions in the business, the most important hires you can make is those people that are really managing those client relationships and expectations.
Okay, so you're starting with $0, and you know what? I'm going to make it harder on you. You have no connections to go to.
Yep.
Maybe like I don't know. Maybe you have like a few $1,000s in savings.
Okay.
And yeah, so now you need to get clients. You're going to events. You have some SEO knowledge. You're pitching to be a speaker at other events. You're going to events every night or every day. You're meeting people. You're getting referrals. How are you structuring your business for new clients? What are your deals look like in terms of like how are you managing expectations? How are you invoicing? How are you doing that if you're just starting?
Yeah. So you want to just keep the processes as simple as possible. I mean, typically you'll sell a client with some form of sort of diagnostic sales process. So you'll have conversations with opportunities. You'll understand where they're at now, where they want to get to, and then typically, if that client is a good fit for you in terms of client fit, budgets, those sorts of things, then typically then you'll do then some form of sort of high level strategy where you can demonstrate your expertise and the general approach. And off the back of that, then you'll make a sales offer, right? So what that would lead to then is some form of service agreement. I think that's really, really important that you have a good, well-structured yet simple service agreement that lays out the expectations of both parties. So we will do this, but we also expect you will do that. That will include your payment terms, the deliverables, client servicing, expectations, those sorts of things. And then once that's signed, of course, you'll get them onboarded. I would always recommend, as we've kind of alluded to get paid up front. You don't want to be cash flowing or bankrolling a client. So make sure that you get paid up front. At minimum, if you're on a monthly retainer type relationship, which is what I would recommend for most people getting started, that you at least get 1 month up front. But where possible, as I said earlier, try and extend that window out as far as possible. And you would be surprised. There is a lot of clients who will pay annually up front if you ask. And you'll certainly be able to get clients to pay quarterly. And if you can do that, one, it's much better for your cash flow, right? Because it's money sitting in your bank that you can dispose as you need to. But also, as I said before, it also increases that look back window. So now when they next have to pay you, you've got 3 months under the belt and all of that additional time and relationship building and work execution done that they've got to consider before they make a next payment. So those would be some of the important things. In terms of team structure, I mean, if you get started with a sort of white label outsource model, you could get started on your own, no problems. You just need to have some, sort of nicely structured sort of account management processes and probably some sort of like help desk or account management email that you do everything through. Once you've got a pool of clients, and I would strongly recommend that anyone's first hire is someone that can do the account management, who basically is the point of contact for the client that then works as the conduit between the client and then the outsource partner that you're using to actually deliver the work. And that's probably the simplest structure to get started with.
Who do you have giving updates, like industry updates or updates, progress updates? Is it the account manager?
Yeah, in our agency now, I mean, we're like 65 people now. We have many account managers, sort of each leading their own sort of mini agency within the agency. And they will be the ones that are the primary point of contact. So not only are they going to be updating the client on, well, where's the project at? What have we delivered this week? What do we need your feedback on? All that sort of stuff. They're also the one that's, driving those conversations as well. So here's what's happening in the industry. Here's some great results we've got for you since last week. They're leading all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Are you Are you doing anything with AI now, especially AI agents?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing a lot in the agency, and that's only going to increase over time. So we have an AI lead. We actually have someone who's solely responsible for that function within the agency, and what they are tasked with is essentially simplifying process and replacing repetitive human-driven work with AI wherever possible. And we've got like loads of use cases for it. Everything from like execution work, tools that, use AI to write alt tags, for instance, as one use case, all the way through to like client intelligence stuff. Last year, for instance, we built a huge model internally, which allows us to evaluate the client risk of churn. So we call it like churn prediction modeling based upon all these sorts of different data points, like client sentiments, like how long does it take them to pay their bill, like all of these different inputs to then understand, okay, is this client at risk? Do we need to be reaching out to them, building strong relationships, those sorts of things. So yeah, we've got many different use cases in the agency right now.
That is so cool. That is so smart. That is so, and that's easy data. That's the AI is sitting in on meetings. You have meetings. No, you have transcriptions. You have emails.
Yeah.
You have it knows the pricing. It knows the progress. It knows everything. How often have you had AI have you had to deal with AI making bad calls very frequently and that costing you a lot of time and money, or has that been managed pretty well?
In that context, no. I mean, in the example of what we call the CRPM, the client retention prediction model, it's been crazy accurate. I mean, we have had instances where we've seen clients hit a risk status of 8 or 9, which is like a risk status out of 10. And then, no kidding, like a week later, we've got an email to say, like, we're handing in our notice. So it's given us the confidence that actually, okay, this is picking up on things that may be outside of our field of vision. Therefore, we should use this data to really get in front of those things. And in that example, I mean, there's no downside to then like over delivering on like client-led activities, right? Just giving a client a little bit more love and attention, making sure they're getting results if we see that score go up. So that's also helped just the general client sentiment and relationship building that we've had. In terms of like other execution tools, not that I'm aware of, but I'm sure the team would probably be able to highlight some, or they're a bit more close to it than I am.
I mean, I don't know. It seems like you just answered this, but I'll ask anyway. So like, if you were starting again, and maybe you were a few months into it now, let's say you had just a couple clients, you didn't have $0 in the bank anymore, or a few $1,000s in savings anymore. Would you build AI agents like at this point, or would you wait to build AI agents? And if you would build AI agents, what sort of things do you think you would make early on?
I mean, I would be looking at it very seriously, as I am also now. In fact, we've just come out of our monthly leadership team meeting, and I've really set a directive for the team that now any hiring decision must be validated by proof that we can't have AI do what you're asking that new hire to do before we make that like hiring decision. So if I was
Wow.
also at that point where I was thinking about building a team, I would be looking very, very closely at, can I actually have AI perform this function?
You can have
Because
AI pitch your speaking engagements.
for sure, absolutely. I mean, it can do so much. It's crazy. And if you're in an agency business, I mean, the historic agency business, by far your biggest cost is going to be your people. I mean, for us, I mean, our wages to sale ratio, it's something that we actively really, really track for profitability, is at about 50%. So 50% of what the agency bills clients then goes straight out in staffing. So if you could remove that, what does that do to your profit margins and your ability to scale? Like, increases it massively. So I think everyone's really facing that at this point. I think there's definitely a huge advantage to someone coming into the market and starting an agency now is because they haven't got that legacy constraint of probably having a very people intensive business. They can actually be very, very agile and adopt this technology probably easier than maybe a larger organization than us. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't have, let's say, a plan to build a 65 headcount agency if I was getting started now. I think I would be looking a lot more efficient methods to get that sort of scale and effectiveness.
What are your what are your best acquisition channels now? And are there any acquisition channels where you feel you're lagging in that you're really excited about?
Yeah, so our biggest ones currently are, funnily enough, what we do. So we get a lot of inbound through paid and organic search, as we should at an SEO agency. But we are really, I mean, we're investing in a lot of areas, and we are seeing a much greater diversification of the lead flow, which is really good news for me because, I don't ever want to be, single point sensitive, especially when it relates to search and all of the changes that are happening within our space. So we're definitely seeing more of a shift. There's definitely a lot more volume coming through organic social. So that's both search-led, organic social, and sort of community-led and follower-led stuff. We're seeing a big uptick in AI as well. So ChatGPT is one of our fastest growing lead sources at the moment. We're doing a lot more. Could you
share an example of like a ChatGPT query leading to awareness for SEO Sherpa, leading to maybe how this person or company would convert into a client?
Most of what we've seen through AI so far has actually been very much like bottom of funnel type queries. So it's been, best SEO agencies in target location, that type of stuff. That's generally what we've seen so far. Can't put my finger on too much that's kind of more kind of like top of funnel. But we're definitely seeing some more kind of interesting conversion paths. I mean, there's far greater degree of messiness in the middle of the conversion journey than there ever was. It's definitely not a one or two click sort of transactional conversion path these days. So what is coming up in our discovery calls when we're speaking to prospects is just the variety and number of different touch points that people are being exposed to now before they actually choose to reach out and have a conversation with us. So this concept of search everywhere, which we're really trying to kind of pioneer, is becoming increasingly important. I mean, you do literally have to be in many different places to stand a chance these days.
Yeah, actually, the biggest, I made a recent episode about this, the most clicked sites now from Google are UGC places like Instagram or TikTok. And how I think video is just the craziest, short form video is the craziest channel because you can make one video, it simultaneously comes out on every platform at once. It ranks really well if you know how to target keywords with video. It ranks really, really well. Like you're putting in 5 to 20 minutes of work to have a video, a piece of content, targeting a keyword that has a high chance of ranking, coming out onto every major platform that is getting the most clicks from Google at the same time for 5 to 20 minutes. That is incredible.
Yeah.
I
was going to say, I'd love to know what you think, because I'm sure, these podcasts that you do, you probably slice and dice those and distribute them across these short form video platforms. What are you seeing in terms of your visibility across, maybe Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts and stuff?
It's really high. There are some keywords where I literally have 3 out of the 4 top positions for the keywords, and it's all video. It's like I find a keyword, I make 3 videos about it, and I have 3 out of the 4 top positions for that keyword because searchers want video too. It's more engaging, short form video. It's more engaging. It's faster. It's like, and if you target the keyword properly, it's giving searchers exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then also I use I use keywords in my descriptions as well for these podcasts or for my shorts, and my videos rank really well within YouTube. And oh yeah, video is crazy. It's great.
And
I
what do you,
still like, yeah, go on.
I was going to say, what are you seeing then in terms of brand uplift? Are you noticing that as a result of this increased exposure that you're getting across these platforms, people are searching you or your show name more frequently? And you're actually then influencing what happens inside Google search as well?
People are searching the name of my SEO course, compact keywords, a lot. And yeah, in fact, now that people are bidding on the name of my course.
Nice.
So yeah, so people are searching that. People are searching my name all the time. In fact, now I have, if you search my name, it's called, Google calls me an internet celebrity. So
Take that.
yeah, I'll take it. But I mean, just the amount of people who have discovered my content from search and then have started binge watching is enormous. It's
Yeah.
like if any industry that you're in, and I say this so often because, like, imagine this: you could spend a few days, maybe 1 or 2 days, making a page to target a keyword, and that's great. You should do that. I still really believe in conventional search, especially for bottom of funnel queries, like you said.
Yeah.
I still think it is the most amazing thing because the only other way to reach people who are looking to purchase right now for what you are selling, they're looking to purchase right now. The only other way to do that is to spend money on ads.
Yeah.
But with bottom of funnel organic search, these queries are typically not very competitive. They don't take a lot of words to rank for. And because they're not competitive, you target the keyword exactly. You have a high chance of ranking for it. And again, it's bottom of funnel. People are literally looking for what you offer, and they just don't know. They don't know your brand. They don't know the brand. They don't know the brand that's going to satisfy their need. And so you target these keywords.
Yeah.
And it's the most amazing thing. It's the only thing where you don't have to spend money for ads. You put up a page, and then because these keywords are not competitive, they rank number one for years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years more. Like it's amazing. But you spend a day or two making that page, and then this content is top of mind for you. This keyword is top of mind. Spend 5 or 20 minutes also making a video for it, because the video has a high chance of ranking as well.
Yeah. And I think the age that we're in now where there is, and obviously an overwhelming amount of, media that we're exposed to each and every day, the amount of touch points that we need to influence our potential, customers, now is just growing and growing. And, these sort of short form kind of like videos, YouTube, TikTok, wherever, it gives you that chance to actually sort of indoctrinate, if you want to kind of call it that, your, potential audience. And that makes a big difference. It's very, very rare, just to be able to influence to any great degree, a potential prospect. Yeah.
The distinction, sorry to interrupt, is with high ticket items like agency work.
Yep.
That's where you need to have like a lot of like you could rank for a bottom of funnel query and say, we do this, we do it well. Here's case studies and all this stuff. Like here's evidence, but people are still going to want that social proof. They're
Yep.
going to want to see you quoted in publications. They're going to want to see those speaking pictures and those speaking videos. They're going to want to see you on social media. For inexpensive items, people will convert right there, which is amazing. But yeah, at the touch points, especially like with agency work, like you said, like you need to have a lot of touch points. And that's also why, like, the best form of, I think the best form of link building that you can do is traditional external marketing. It brings you backlinks, but it also puts your brand in all these different places. So when someone is looking to convert for that high ticket item, they see all the external marketing that you've done that has also brought you the backlinks, and then they convert.
Yeah.
And sounds like
and
that's
also
what you're doing.
becoming increasingly important in the age of AI, where, frequency of co-citations or co-mentions, however we want to describe it, is really, really important as well, right? So more of this sort of traditionally sort of PR-led type activity is more important now than probably it ever was.
Super important. I want to leave people with this last question as we wrap. Okay, so again, like especially for people who are learning SEO and maybe they're just starting to sell their expertise. People who are newer, or yourself, I don't know, or yourself 15 years ago. What would be your like top one or two pieces of advice
For learning SEO,
for people who are just beginning their journeys? They're learning SEO. They're starting by selling it. They want to have an agency at least for now, or they want to get clients, or maybe they have clients and they want to scale up.
so the first one I would say would be to launch a side project. So have a website, a small kind of side business of your own to practice on. It's going to put you at the coalface. You're going to understand the industry. You're going to understand what's working much better, and it will give you the context, the business and the SEO context that would be needed to actually help, people. So your potential clients and prospects. And the second one I would give, probably from an agency standpoint, would be to remove yourself from the business as soon as you can. In other words, remove yourself from the client management, the execution work, and focus as much of your time on getting clients as you possibly can, because otherwise you're going to get kind of stuck in this sort of capacity seesaw where you'll get a client and then you have to start executing on the work. And then when that client goes, you then have to get back to selling again. And you're in this like constant, like sort of seesaw of trying to grow your business. So as soon as you can get out and really focus on actually growing the business, the better. And that's where the majority of your time should be spent.
Man, that having your own project is such strong advice. It's underrated advice. Because when I was at iProspect, a problem that I had is I felt like a lot of my colleagues just weren't serious about SEO. But I had been doing it with my own site for years. And like it's no one, even if you have clients, it's different when you are trying to do SEO for your own thing. You learn so much more. You are so much deeper in it.
Yeah.
You're deep in it with clients as well, but like when it's your own thing, it's just, and especially something, because the thing about clients is clients come and go, but your own website, you have that for, forever. And so you actually get to see how things change over years, and you can make one little tweak and it'll change something a year later. And you actually get to see that and you get the learnings like that. And, but anyway, James, thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for the 21 SEO experiments that changed my life when I read it, and for coming on the show. Actually, I got to ask you about this because you are crushing on LinkedIn. You have, I think, 50,000 followers on LinkedIn. You are such a notable person. Just if you could give a quick piece of advice for growing on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn growth tips. Consistency is really important for the platform. It's also just important to kind of find your voice, I think. So whilst I've not always been, let's say, as consistent as I have been, at least the last sort of year and a half or so, I've been every single day posting there. And that's kind of given me a kind of a style and a format. And I think the second thing is, just really just stay in your lane. I think I built a following on LinkedIn because I really have just focused down on the SEO and the inbound marketing space. And because of that, I've become kind of known for it. And that, of course, then has so much more kind of sell through in terms of referability and people remembering me and so on and so forth. So those would be two things: consistency and just really sticking to a niche.
Niching down, yeah. Where should everybody find you?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, probably most active on LinkedIn. So you can find me there by searching for James Reynolds. I'm follow James on Instagram and all of the other social channels. And the agency, if people want to find out more about what we're doing there, is SEO Sherpa, and that's at seosherpa.com.
Thank you again for coming on. And stick around after while the video uploads when I hit stop recording. And for everybody who is watching and who is listening, this is episode 710 of The Edward Show. This is my daily digital marketing show, 710 days in a row doing this show. No days missed. Crazy. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And I will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye now.